Hello, welcome to Community Storytelling and Good Metadata, marketing advice for OER librarians. Thank you to the Library Publishing Forum for having me. And if anybody wants to talk about the Library Publishing Forum or they want to talk about this presentation specifically, please use the hashtag LPForum21. And if you would like to insert me into that conversation or anyone at Pressbooks, just use the @Pressbooks. Here we go. My name is Leigh Kinch-Pedrosa. I'm the head of marketing at Pressbooks, and this is my face. This is my dog's face. Her name is Deborah Messing, and she is sad because she has no money and she has no time. There aren't enough resources for marketing open textbooks. That's an obvious statement, and I don't have to say it, but here we are. We all know that library budgets are being slashed, and that slashing is exacerbated by the pandemic. I bring it up not to put us all in a bummer mood, but to prepare the ground on which we can build. Given the limited resources that library publishers and other OER creators have, it's easy to question the need for marketing open books. But no matter the motivation a creator has to make OER, getting more people to encounter and engage with your book is a valuable outcome. Good marketing extends the life of a book, so you put the work into it. Don't let it die. Let's dive further into why librarians should be concerned with marketing open books. Everyone has their own reasons for creating OER, saving their students money, filling a subject matter gap, or localizing to a particular cultural context. Pretty endless reasons. But there are reasons for creating OER beyond an immediate problem. For instance, we may want to save more students money. Beyond the specific classroom for which the OER was initially created, or we may want to argue for greater investment in OER, or we may want to advocate more generally for open principles. Remember that when you sell the value of open education, you expand your total addressable market for your book. When open education does well, your book does well, and all the OER creators do well, and all the students do well. This presentation is for anyone who wants to learn more about how to market to achieve these goals. But I have tailored it specifically to librarians, but anyone else, welcome. Here we go. If you are interested in doing the work of marketing in the open education space, there are additional obstacles that you are up against beyond the expected limited budget and lack of human resources. Most notably is the need to avoid marketing practices that are the go-to for many traditional digital marketers. For one thing, those type of practices, Google ads, for instance, are expensive, but perhaps more importantly, they just aren't appropriate for the audience for open textbooks. When you're marketing in the open education or open publishing space, you're up against some pretty big companies, particularly big commercial publishers, and they have enormous marketing departments, and you may not even have access to your own institution's marketing department in the same way. So you have to use what you got, but what have you got? To start with, you have intimate knowledge of your audience. And that kind of knowledge is the type for which your counterparts in big marketing departments will pay top dollar. So it's valuable. You have trust, as you are a person in an institution who is mandated to support faculty and students. And then, like that close connection to the community to which you are marketing, it sets you up for success. Oops, let's go back. There we are. I've been working in open education marketing for a few years and marketing for several more in the art world and in the nonprofit space. And today I'd like to share some practical, actionable tips informed by my experience marketing in this space. I do work for Pressbooks and will make reference to some of the stuff that I have done with Pressbooks and some tools of Pressbooks, but only because that's my most immediate context and it's the stuff that I know best most recently. But my goal here actually is to share advice that anyone can use, whether you're using Pressbooks or not. During the rest of the presentation, I will speak about good metadata, finding and telling a story, and where and how to tell that story. So let's start with good metadata. I don't need to convince a room full of librarians the value of good metadata, but let's get into it. Metadata is important for search tools and aggregators. Pressbook's own directory, which is an index of all the public books created with, or most of the public books created with Pressbooks. And it allows people to search, like I think it's 2,300 is the last time I checked, free books. That directory searches the metadata of public books created with our tools. And without good metadata, excellent resources are less discoverable in this space and other repositories. Like OER Commons or Merlot or things like that. But beyond search tools, there are other searchers looking for your metadata and other people who want to use your metadata. Searchers like me. I am a marketer who has worked for an organization or works for an organization that wants to promote specific open text books. And you are a searcher who wants to promote open text books as well, presumably. I spend a lot of time scrolling to the metadata to find the important information I need so that I can quickly share on social media or reference in a content marketing piece. The point I'm actually trying to make here is that you have to make it as easy as possible for other people and for yourself, you're busy, to share your work. Seeing metadata presented in a tidy and obvious way is super helpful to me and anyone else who wants to tweet or post or tell a friend. So let's get into a bit of an example here. What you're seeing on my screen is the metadata page for the Foundations of Neuroscience book that came out in January from the publisher is Michigan State University. The author is Casey Henley. The primary subject matter is the neurosciences, and we see licenses in ESBNs. ISBNs. I've sort of just rattled off a couple of like metadata fields that are particularly important to me, and I'll show you what I did with them. Here is on the left a tweet that we tweeted at the book. You've got the book cover on the left-hand side. You've got hashtag neuroscience. So I have linked the tweet to anyone who's looking for stuff related to neuroscience on Twitter. I have used @nerdoscience, which is the handle for Casey Henley. So she sees that I'm marketing the book and then can push it out further. And I have used @MSU Libraries, which is the Michigan State University Library Twitter account, so that they can also see that I'm trying to promote their book and they can help me out with that. The impact of doing those things is that this book has 1,250 impressions, which means that 1,250 people have seen this tweet. And I took that measurement about a day after I tweeted that, and given the following that Pressbooks has, that's pretty decent. But what's actually more interesting is this link clicks right here, that we've got 18 of them. That's 18 chances for someone to adopt your book, a single person, or maybe even a whole class of people. And that's just one tweet. Maybe a tweet a couple times, maybe that'll be more. So I just want to move on a little bit to talk about, yes, so metadata, yes, it makes it easy to find the essential details about your book so that it can be shared. But how do you make your marketing memorable beyond just publisher, title, whatever? This is where storytelling comes in. You have to find a hook for your book. And to do that, you have to go back to basics, high school language arts class. This is where many of us learn to name the elements of story, be that characters or setting, physical or situational, or the obstacles and conflicts, et cetera, et cetera. By thinking about these more experiential elements, we give our audience something to hold on to. If I were coaching you on how to sell your book story, I would begin by asking, is the author of the book an interesting character? Can you build a world out of the setting, be it physical space or a time frame? Did something happen in the plot of your book's creation that is exciting, or did you overcome a significant obstacle? Let's put that into action. This book here is from the University of Washington, Tacoma. It is called Black Lives Matter Collective Storytelling Project. And it was created during, it's a collaboration with students, and it was created during the COVID-19 pandemic as a way of creating connection in the classroom in an extreme circumstance. That's lockdown of 2020, around the time of the first bunch of George Floyd protests. And that, to me, is a really interesting story that offers a lot for an audience to engage with. The setting is a virtual classroom during a global pandemic. The characters are two groups of students who are telling their stories in unique ways. The plot is one of open pedagogy and collaboration. This book is awesome. And if the authors wanted, they could create some really cool marketing material out of it or for it. But where to tell that story? There are a number of ways that you can share your story or your book once you've been given it some thought, or given the story some thought. To choose where you will share your book, you have to look to the audience that you want to reach. To do this, you should first look to your own community and identify their where their public conversations are happening. In the case of open education practitioners, the following channels are important. We have social media. Twitter is the most important one. I can tell you that from experience for academic Twitter or for open education. There's the open newsletters, so things like OER Digest. There are newsletters managed by your institution or your own newsletter or newsletters for your specific field. There's listservs like the Sparks Lib OER. And there's conferences, so open or field specific. You can always talk about a case study for your book's creation. Each of these have their own ways that they can be optimally used, and I'm happy to answer questions that are specific to these channels, but during the QA. But for now, I just want to try and provide some advice that sort of applied to most of them. My first piece of advice is make it easy. Your story can be excellent. Your metadata can be clean, clear, and polished. But if you're not getting engagement for your audience, your marketing isn't successful. So how do you do that? You may have a big old Twitter following, or you may not have invested a lot of time into cultivating a personal brand, which I don't begrudge anyone for neglecting. I personally only have 200 followers on my personal Twitter account because I don't care about it. If you're like me, or if you're similar to that case, getting other people to talk about your book is really important to achieving your marketing goals, which means you have to make it easy for leaders, ambassadors, influencers to help you out. One way to do that is to pre-package tweets like this one on the left here that I created for the accessibility case studies for scholarly communication librarians and practitioners. You could do that also something similar for a newsletter. And then just asking people, could you please retweet? If you send out an email with the URL to this tweet and you said, hey, I think that you might be interested in this book, it would really help me out a lot. Could you please retweet this to help me spread the word? Here's the link. All that person has to do is click the link and then click retweet. That's two, if they have Twitter, that is 2 steps to helping you out a lot. And don't be afraid to ask. Other people and organizations may be supportive of your work and have similar goals, but they may not think to promote you. Everyone has a lot to do. It's understandable. So you have to ask. That means emailing your student paper editor, direct messaging people on Twitter, emailing your new book to the OER Digest, posting in the listserv with a shareable link. Getting on the horn, it's a really daunting task, but it's worth it. And that extra bit of personal human-to-human question, that asking for help, that a little bit of vulnerability, it stands out and people connect to it. When I used to be teaching storytelling, I used to always tell my students, humans connect to humans, so be a human. But but who to ask is the next question. Librarians, turns out, well positioned to connect with people in the institution who care about things. You can ask your student advocacy groups. You can talk to student newspapers. You can reach out to librarians at other institutions that you know. You could talk to your Center for Teaching and Learning. You could talk to other open education practitioners on social media, especially those that have been doing it for a long time. They might be super supportive of helping somebody who's new to it. Carry as we climb, what you want to say. And then finally, you could talk to your institution's marketing and communications department. They may be more interested than you think, especially if you're showcasing faculty success or student success for that matter. In summary, marketing open textbooks is an afterthought. I get it, but I argue that it's super important. And if you do it in a way that's engaging, it can be fun, or it could be super effective, which is actually what we're going for. When we think of the type of marketing that is popular right now, we often think about Google ads, data tracking, spending a bunch of money to sponsor a big event at a conference, but that's just not within the reach of a lot of open education practitioners, nor does it need to be. As librarians, you have to use your assets. You are connected to your community of faculty and students. You know the story of your book. If you worked on a book, you know it at a deep level, and you are connected to the people who can amplify your signal. You have everything you need to make a creative, vibrant, and human marketing campaign. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. Debbie says thank you too. She's happy about happy marketing. Thank you.